The first time I met Captain Jace Ryder, I swore I'd rather crash in a burning jet than spend another second in his presence. The second time, the government told me I was going to marry him. In America, in the year 2038, Alpha-Omega pairings were no longer just a matter of choice. The Omega Compatibility Act had made it necessary for certain matches to be arranged, especially among high-profile individuals whose unions could benefit national interest. I thought it was all political nonsense until my name showed up on the registry, linked to his. Jace Ryder, decorated Air Force pilot, Alpha. Me, Ethan Vale, a civilian Omega who had no intention of being anyone's political pawn, least of all his. It wasn't just that Jace was arrogant, though God, he was. It wasn't just that he strutted around like he owned the sky. No, the real reason I hated him was simpler. 5 years ago, he'd humiliated me in front of half the Academy cadets, called me fragile glass in that low, mocking voice, and then walked away without a second glance. I hadn't forgotten. I hadn't forgiven. Now, here he was, standing in the corridor outside my apartment, wearing his flight jacket like it was armor, holding a document with the government seal. "Vale," he said, and the sound of my name in his voice felt like a blade sliding under my skin. "Ryder," I replied, crossing my arms. "If you're here to apologize, you're 5 years late." He didn't even blink. "I'm here because they've assigned us. You know what that means." I did. Everyone did. Assignment meant bond. Bond meant shared home, shared finances, shared life. And between an Alpha and Omega, it meant something deeper, an instinctive, biological connection that neither of us had asked for. "I'm not doing it," I said, trying to shut the door. He stopped it with his hand, and for one heartbeat too long, his palm pressed against mine through the wood. I felt the heat. "Damn biology. You don't have a choice," he said quietly. "And neither do I." The first week was a war. We moved into a high-rise in Manhattan, a sleek, glass-walled apartment that screamed money and military connections. Jace was gone most mornings before I woke up, flying missions for the Air Force. At night, he came home smelling like jet fuel and adrenaline, and the air between us felt charged, like we were constantly one word away from either a fight or a kiss. He was infuriating. He used my coffee mugs without asking. He reorganized my kitchen for efficiency. He had the audacity to look good doing push-ups in the living room. But there were cracks. Little moments that didn't fit the arrogant Alpha pilot image. Like the night I fell asleep on the couch watching old black and white movies, and I woke to find a blanket over me that I hadn't put there. Or when I twisted my ankle on the subway stairs, and he was at my side within seconds, muttering curses under his breath but keeping a steady arm around me all the way home. The truth slipped in unexpectedly. We were on the balcony one evening. The city stretched out beneath us, the wind sharp with late winter cold. Jace stood beside me, hands gripping the railing, his shoulders tense. "You really think I hate you, don't you?" he asked. I turned to him. "You don't exactly give me reasons to think otherwise." He let out a humorless laugh. "I never hated you, Ethan." His voice caught, and for a moment, the mask cracked. "Do you even remember the first time we met?" "Yeah. You insulted me in front of everyone." He shook his head. "That wasn't the first time." I frowned. "Then when?" 5 years ago, before the Academy dinner. You were in the courtyard, reading. You dropped your notes and I picked them up. You didn't even see me because I walked away before you could look up. I didn't want you to know I'd been staring at you for 20 minutes. The confession hit me like turbulence. My breath caught. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He met my eyes, and there was no arrogance there now, just something raw, almost desperate. Because even then I knew, and it scared the hell out of me. That night I didn't sleep. Not because of what he said, but because of what it did to me. It was easier to hate him when I thought he was just an egotistical alpha forced into my life. But now there was a possibility that all this time, the one I'd been pushing away had been trying, in his own infuriating way, to get closer. The next morning, I caught him making coffee using my mug. Again, and I didn't yell. I just watched him from the doorway, realizing I'd never really looked at him without the filter of my resentment. And that was dangerous. Jace's confession didn't disappear into the night. It lingered in the air between us, weaving itself into the quiet moments we couldn't avoid. And I began to really notice how much of him I had ignored. Like the way he always kept me on the side of the sidewalk farthest from traffic. The way his gaze flicked over every room we entered, subtle but instinctive, like he was mapping every exit in case he needed to protect me. The way his voice softened whenever he said my name. I didn't want to fall for him. God, I didn't. But my resolve was a dam with cracks forming faster than I could patch them. 2 weeks later, the dam broke. It was a mission gone wrong. Jace had been called out for a high-risk interception off the East Coast. I told myself it was just another one of his classified flights. I told myself he'd come back like always smelling of jet fuel, teasing me about my coffee habits. He didn't. 3 hours after his scheduled return, I got a knock on the door. Not Jace. 2 uniformed officers, their faces grim. There was an incident, one of them said. He's in critical condition. He asked for you. My knees nearly gave out. At the hospital, I found him hooked to monitors, pale against the sterile white sheets. His left arm was in a sling, his side bandaged, and there was a cut along his cheek that made my chest ache just looking at it. You look terrible, I whispered, my voice trembling. Good to see you too, he murmured, his lips tugging into the faintest smile. Then his hand reached for mine, and I didn't hesitate this time. I took it, holding on like the world depended on it. You scared me, I said. Yeah? Guess that makes us even, he replied, his eyes heavy-lidded but still locked on me. You've been scaring me since the day I met you. He recovered slowly but surely, and somewhere between hospital visits and late-night conversations, the fear turned into something else. One night, back in our apartment, I asked him the question that had been clawing at me. Why didn't you ever tell me? He looked at me like the answer was obvious. Because you deserved to choose. And if I told you how I felt before, you'd think I was just trying to trap you. I swallowed hard. And now, his voice dropped, soft but certain. Now I'm willing to risk you hating me, as long as I can love you out loud. We kissed for the first time on the balcony, city lights glittering below us. It wasn't rushed, wasn't desperate. It was steady, grounding, like he was anchoring me to the one place I hadn't realized I belonged. The bond between us flared to life then, not as some forced obligation, but as a choice we both made in that moment. I felt it in the way his hands framed my face, in the way my heartbeat synced with his. And for the first time since the government's letter arrived, I didn't feel trapped. I felt free. Months later, Jace still steals my coffee mugs, still reorganizes my kitchen. But now, when I see him leaning in the doorway with that infuriating smirk, I walk over, wrap my arms around him, and kiss him until he forgets whatever smart remark he was about to make. Because somewhere between hating him and loving him, I realized they were the same road. He'd just been walking it longer than I had. And now we walk it together. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.